here at Pro Tour Thunder Junction are two undefeated players, but there can be only one after this game. Yoshihiko Ikawa versus Lucas Duchow. Yoshihiko Ikawa there, you can see him, 2 Pro Tour top 8s, says he's very happy to play this next matchup because he says his deck is excellent versus Esper Midrange, which, let me tell you, is a pretty important thing in this tournament. So he is sitting pretty. Versus Lucas Duchow, a Magic Online great here playing in paper, started playing all the way back in 1997. So I just said how he feels about his deck. Corey, what do you think?
No, I mean, this matchup is absolutely great for Domain. You know, Domain really wants to play against Esper, doesn't really want to play against Teamer Analyst, that style of deck. So yeah, Ikawa has got to be feeling great about this. This is Domain. You're trying to get Atraxa into play. Up the Beanstalk is an incredibly tough card for these Esper mid-range decks to deal with. And yeah, Ikawa is just trying to go way, way over the top of Lucas.
All right, there's a look at Ikawa's deck list. Let's take a look at Duchow's here.
Yep, here's Duchow's list. This is the big bad of the tournament. Playing a lot of diverse threats, playing Fairy Mastermind as well as Duelist of the Mind and Preacher of the Schism. Just thought, you know, why choose one of the creatures, Maria, when you can just play all of them and just play 3 of each? I love it. I love it.
I'm very excited to see which player will remain undefeated.
Oh my God, here we go.
The cow's back. Holy cow. Corey, what have you say to me this time?
All right, the holy cow moment here. We're going to go easy on this. We're just going to land a herd migration. They may not be cows, they are 3/3 beasts, but there's a lot of them. That's our holy cow moment.
All right, we want to see some 3/3 beasts, the holy cow moment. After so many holy cow moments this weekend, Corey, got to tell you, I got a beef with you.
You got a beef with me? Absolutely.
Yeah, I really do.
You've been just knocking it out of the park.
Thank you so much. 2 guys I don't have a beef with, you two, Cedric and Riley.
Cedric might have a beef with you.
Thanks very much, Maria. And yes, Cedric and I over here in the booth ready to get stuck into what is the last round of Standard today.
Make a cow joke.
And it's good to have your
Make a cow
company
joke,
as
Riley.
we get stuck in to, well, what is undoubtedly one of the best decks in the format in Esper Midrange, facing off against what we've characterized as a bad matchup in Domain.
Terrible matchup.
Is it actually really that bad?
It's pretty bad, yeah.
So if we sort of got a scissors, paper, rock situation where Domain beats Esper, Esper beats Teamer, and then Teamer beats Domain?
That feels correct.
Like, even if it's just sort of ish?
Yeah. That feels, like, I don't think it's, you know, dominate, but like, you know, favorite.
I like that. It's nice to have that sort of texture to any to a given metagame, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one shakes out, and if our Esper mid-range player can maybe pull a victory out of thin air here, if the matchup really is as lopsided as we're saying it is. Although again, maybe it's not as clear.
It's not as lopsided. Like, I do think in this matchup, Domain is favored. I don't think it is like outrageously favored personally, you know, because there's always just the, do you have pressure plus disruption, right, against any deck, which is what makes Esper so appealing. And also, the power level of Esper is generally higher. Now, there is one thing to be said, which is it depends on how Esper is built. So I'll give you a perfect example. Preacher of the Schism, really good card. Not very good in this matchup.
Yeah, it just doesn't really do much because
right.
the Domain list can look at that card and be like, all right, sure, yep, make some cool draw. Yeah, whatever.
Take
like,
two,
yes,
take two,
okay, yes,
not a big
fine.
deal,
it's
right?
Not, but it's not the issue that it would be against a creature deck where it's a great defensive option.
Correct.
Where a deck that, you know, needs to really control the battlefield, like a control deck, that's a legitimate threat,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Whereas this deck just kind of looks and goes, all right, yeah, cool, play a 7/7.
Now, when you're playing in a tournament like this, where, you know, there's multiple different decks in the format, Preacher of the Schism might be a little bit better in the mirror, that sort of thing, it makes sense to start this card because it's kind of generically good against a lot of things. But if you knew the Domain was going to be, you know, half the field or something, Preacher of the Schism might not even be in your deck.
Yeah, a 2/4 death touch is just not what is going to beat a 7/7 keyword soup, draw 7 cards.
Yeah, when they're firing down with Archangel of Wrath and Herd Migration and stuff like that, Preacher of the Schism is, you know, that's the knife at the old gunfight.
Yep. Well, Lucas is going to cast it anyhow here, and now it's back to Yoshihiko, who opened things up with a Topiary Stomper. I'm a big fan of these 3-mana creatures, like the Wood Elves type creatures.
Yeah,
I like them a lot.
I've always liked these style of creatures.
Yeah. And Imidane's Recruiter is going to go on an adventure here. And look at this, it's going to create my very favorite creature token.
Tell me more.
2/2 Vigilant Knights.
Why do you like those?
No reason.
Okay.
No reason. There's not any possible way for anyone to figure out why that's my favorite creature type.
You know, we agree.
Yeah. What's your favorite creature type?
It's a personal question.
Yeah, is it Phillips? Oh, wait, they don't have a creature type named after you like they do after me. Sorry, mate, I shouldn't have brought that up. I know it's a sore point for you. All right, Wandering Emperor is going to come down and make this a very awkward block here with the 2 Knight tokens. So they burn hot and bright. Thank you for your service as they head off once again after being taken down by First Strike Death Touch. Quite a combo.
Yeah, it looks like both of those Knights are dead.
All right, mate. That's very, sure. Cool. Thanks for that. Death comes for us all. I'm not afraid of it. I'll meet it sword in hand. Thank you very much.
Fair enough.
Like a true knight.
Yeah.
I don't know if I introduced myself at the beginning of this round, by the way. My name's Riley Knight.
Pleasure to meet
For
you.
any new listeners who are like, what is this guy talking about? Or any old listeners who are also saying, what is this guy talking about? Wouldn't be the first time that they've said that to themselves, I'm sure, listening to me broadcast Magic the Gathering.
You don't have to wait for the check.
All right.
Making sure.
Yoshihiko here.
This is a totally fine start here for Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is kind of what a game would sort of look like, right? It's just play 3-drop, play Wandering Emperor, like just play, kind of just play spells, mana works, like it's all just fine. But again, this is why Domain players like this matchup, is because Lucas hasn't done anything overwhelmingly scary, right? It's just been, okay, Preacher, Wandering Emperor, kind of lose the battle, whatever, not the end of the world.
Look at Yoshihiko's life total.
Yeah, 20.
Like, he's not under pressure.
20 into the mid game.
Yeah.
Ikawa's got nice cards in hand, a couple Archangels, Leyline's Binding, if anything scary is going on, and very good draw steps available.
But we see this in other formats as well when it comes to like looking at these archetypes, right? Like a go big deck will beat a mid-range deck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Because they're just doing stuff that is more powerful. All right, Leyline Binding here on the Preacher. Takes care of that particular problem. And that's just, again, a good, efficient answer. Yoshihiko's in a good spot on this board. And Lucas now has to get himself back in this game. And it's a Duelist of the Mind. Nathan Stoy making an appearance here.
Yeah. Haven't seen this card very much yet today.
Yeah. Talking to people about which card they prefer in Esper. It's very rarely Duelist, no Mastermind.
Yep.
It's sometimes Fairy Mastermind, Duelist split, but often it's just Fairy Mastermind. And one of the reasons I was given for that, some of the players I was speaking to were talking about how bad it is to have a Duelist of the Mind when your opponent has a Fairy Mastermind.
Correct. Now, what is notable here is that for Lucas, he's playing 3 copies of Duelist of the Mind and 3 copies of Fairy Mastermind.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, most of the time is one or the other. But maybe the secret sauce was both. 7-0.
I'm just kind of sad that Nathan didn't get to play himself.
Tried.
Yeah.
Tried.
Oh, and you would.
Yeah.
You would.
He tried really hard to play his own card and just couldn't find the perfect.
It would be. I tell you, I wouldn't have the same restraint if I say if. When I will win a world championship.
That's it. I like the positivity. Keep
when
that
I
coming.
win a world championship, I will play that card in every deck that I ever register ever again. All right, we've got another Topiary Stomper, and this one's actually going to wake up the second one, so it's not too bad here. Let's wake up the first one, I should say. And search up a basic. And I want to commend Yoshihiko Ikawa. I've thrown a lot of heat around.
Okay.
A lot of judgment today when it comes to the basic choices. But Yoshihiko Ikawa is using the best basic lands in Magic the Gathering. The original Zendikar full art lands.
Oh,
now, I'm personally a Veronique Magnard lifetime stan. I'm a big fan of them. I think those are the John Avon ones there. But look, we're not taking any points away.
Okay.
Big fan of those lands. So Yoshihiko's certainly making some spectacular choices when it comes to deck presentation.
I see you find those to be better than the alpha and beta basics.
I do. I don't have an emotional connection to those cards. I wasn't playing back in, you know, in the previous millennium.
Understood.
So, yeah.
I wonder if these Fairy Masterminds can turn around this game here for Lucas. Just needs to find some of the better cards from his deck. But the scary thing is if he draws an additional card, of course that means that Ikawa's going to draw an additional card. I think Ikawa's ceiling, as far as the draw steps are concerned, are better than Lucas's, because that's when Atraxa works itself into the equation. The aforementioned Hide Migration. Right? Yeah.
So if
scary.
If both players draw the best card in their deck, Yoshihiko's so far ahead.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Like if both players were just able to Demonic Tutor the best card that they have in their deck into their hands, Lucas is completely outstripped on power level. And even this 4-drop as an Archangel of Wrath coming down, this is a great way for Yoshihiko to manage the battlefield.
This is one of my favorite recent cards.
Yeah?
Yeah. I just like the design of this card a lot. It's very powerful, and Domain's the best home for it. But it's one of my favorite cards of recent memory.
And I think it's just going to clean up here with a nice, neat little 2-for-1 by the look of things.
Okay.
Yeah. Duelist of the Mind down to the double Sacred Fire. And go for the throw. Takes out the Angel. All right, Fairy Mastermind now for Lucas. Double Fairy Mastermind. So, in they come.
19.
Another World Championship card here. Yuta Takahashi's, of course.
Ah, see, that was the trick to the tournament. Just play as many World Championship cards as
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, they're generally pretty good.
Yeah, and then you probably just win.
Yeah. You go back and look at all of the cards, the World Championship cards, the invitational cards from the days of yore.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of stinkers.
Oh, goodness me.
But speaking of stinkers, this is an absolute stinker for Lucas here, because these Sacred Fires, as I call them, the two damage lightning helices, if you like, can really go after this board. So Lucas draws 3 here,
Because the 2 masterminds.
whereas Yoshihiko draws 1. That's pretty sick.
Okay, 23.
But then, you're immediately losing 2 cards for essentially nothing there. The Archangel of Wrath. Eating good tonight.
Yeah, that was delish and nutrish.
Yep. Right, Denik flashed back, if we can say that.
It'd be disturbing if you did.
Yeah.
Combat.
And in they come. The Archangel and the Topiary Stomper getting busy.
11.
26.
Ikawa's got a really nice hand. Obviously, life total advantage heavily in Ikawa's favor right now. But up the Beanstalk is the card drawing engine that's kind of missing. Splunking is kind of bridging the gap, not having a huge impact on the game. The Sunfall is just kind of in the holster in case anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
So I like Ikawa's positioning right now because ahead on the battlefield, this Archangel, this Topiary Stomper needs to be handled first.
Ooh, I think that was another Archangel off the top as well. So that's...
Either that or a Leyline Binding.
It was a white card for sure.
Yeah.
Either way, you're happy with that.
I mean, both cards
right?
are good.
Both cards
Yeah.
great. Yeah, bit of removal. But I think are we gonna get Splunky? Yeah. All right, let's Splunk it up here.
Maybe a counter spell here. Okay.
And a No More Lies. All right. Exile the Spelunking. But I don't think Yoshihiko is too upset about
No,
that. Yeah,
not
I
really.
think so. Yeah,
It's kind of if it resolves, it's kind of cool, and if not the end of the world. Now, I think one of the things I was curious about with Ikawa is there's a Jetmir Garden in hand, and all the tri-lands that can be drawn now. Is there any reason to play them? Because you have 7 mana of all your colors. Is there any reason to play them, or is it about, yeah, I'm actually just going to keep in my hand a cycle?
Cycle a little bit later on. Can't cycle it this turn, but we'll eventually have the mana to cycle it away. All right, and another Danik here. So we've got the... we've got the Pious Apprentice. And then the Pious Apparition.
Yeah, we might see the Sunfall now finally, and depopulate too. You'd rather cast Sunfall than populate because of Denik Pious Apparition's text. But now it's just going to play it this turn. So maybe there wasn't a land played last turn. Maybe it wasn't sandbagging. I could be mistaken.
I thought he was on 7. Yeah, no, he was on 7 because he got the 7th land with the second
with the
dinosaur.
Stomper. Yeah.
So maybe just changed his mind there.
Yeah, so something obviously could change. You know, the battlefield's changed between last turn and this turn.
All right, Preacher gets busy along with Denik in both his original and final forms. And Ikawa down to 19. Luke's up to 10.
What do I got stored for these Tidebinders?
Yeah, double Tidebinder. That does knock a lot of text off an Atraxa.
It does.
But it doesn't knock off the power and toughness.
So
Yeah.
you are
10.
10. Okay.
All right, in comes the Archangel once again.
7, 22.
22.
And as you've just heard, life totals change to 7 against 22. It's the life link on the Angel. 5 mana now. There's the Sunfall.
Yep.
Trigger the up the Beanstalk as well, which is a nice way to recoup some of the cards that Yoshihiko loses to his own sweeper.
Yeah, I like a... okay, that's what changed.
All right.
Okay, it took me a minute. So, once Sunfall works itself into the equation, the reason you play the Jetmir Gardens last turn is because that brings you up to 8 mana, which lets you play through No More Lies when you resolve Sunfall. So that's why the Sandbagging land makes some sense if you plan on cycling it. Battlefield got more developed, which means you want to cast a Sunfall, but you don't want it to get countered by No More Lies. So that's why you play land number 8.
And then another Triumph to cycle away anyway
Yep.
here. So Yoshihiko back in control of this game, you'd have to say. But he's going to have to play through the Tishana's Tidebinders. Having said that, maybe just a vanilla 7/7 is going to do it.
That might be.
That might
more than
just
enough.
be enough
Yeah.
in this situation, if and when Atraxa arrives. All right, so this time we've got Dinosaur on the Cavern of Souls for the Topiary Stompers.
Funny that a deck that cares so much about the mana that it has, insofar as the land types.
All right, so here's a use for the Tishana's Tidebinder. So
Absolutely.
I believe what this means is now that is just a blank piece of cardboard. You can't reactivate it, right? Because it's an artifact. So it just has no text. It's got the counters on it, but it doesn't do anything. And we're going to also see the
Tidebinder
Tishana's
that too.
Tidebinder on the Leyline binding.
Yeah.
I'm not that upset if I'm Yoshihiko
No.
and that happens. It's like, all right, cool. All
It's all
right.
fine. This is all fine.
It's fine. I can beat 2 3/2s.
Your binding still drew you a card.
Yeah. And the incubate token is
sorry.
Yeah, he already played a land this turn. Played the Cavern of Souls on the
Yeah.
Dinosaur. What I was going to mention with the lands in this deck, it's interesting that this domain deck, which cares about its basics and the triomes and everything, can still afford to play multiple copies of Cavern of Souls.
Yeah.
You know, your deck with Leyline Binding and Herd Migration, all this other stuff, but yeah, you still got enough room to
You
make
can
sure
find room for it,
your
yeah.
awesome cards are uncounterable.
So here comes now the third and I think final copy of Preacher of the Schism. One in the, well, 2 in the exile zone, different exile zones, and 1 on the battlefield. But again, a card that Yoshihiko should be able to weather here. You said he had a depopulate in hand, right?
Yeah, there's at least one Depop in grip. There's an Atraxa now too.
Yeah. So depopulate would be a good way to clear this board. Unlock that token again. You can flip the incubator token. But maybe we're going to see something else here. All right, we've got 6 mana. Archangel of Wrath. That takes care of both of the Tidebinders.
And most importantly, uncounterable Archangel
Yeah.
via the Cavern.
Yeah.
Just make sure the mana's all right for the double kicks if you're going to...
Yeah, so yeah, we can see working it out here.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's a
That's
depopulate
easier.
instead. Okay, yeah. And away they go. All right. Tidal 3 for 1. And
Yeah,
now
we get to do it.
we get to do this.
Yeah, we're done.
And I think Lucas realizes, all right, well, 7/7's gonna clean things up nicely. And so game number 1 goes to Yoshihiko Ikawa, who I think gave us there a pretty confident display of the texture of this matchup.
For
right?
sure.
Never really seemed to be under a huge... There was pressure, but never a huge amount of pressure, never an insurmountable amount of pressure. It never really felt like Yoshihiko was sort of struggling to keep his head above water.
Not at all.
And it was Lucas who faced the pressure to make something happen in the game.
The whole time. The whole time. Ikawa was using his life total as a resource, not really underneath thunder pressure, can afford to take a couple of hits, nothing to really be too terrified of. And the biggest problem to solve was maybe the multiple copies of Fairy Mastermind and Archangel did that all by itself.
Yeah, and that's the danger with the sizing of some of those creatures that Lucas is playing. The fact that you could pick off 2 entire cards, while still having a 3/4 lifelink behind shows the power of the Archangel, and also just getting in there with that 3-4 times, not even that much, maybe 2 or 3 times, buffering the life total out. Yeah, really like the way that Yoshihiko played. That's not to take anything away from Lucas. I don't think Lucas blundered or misstepped or played it badly by any means. It's a rough matchup, as we've already said, and now a Topiary Stomper is going to open the account for Yoshihiko. Fairy Mastermind on the side of Lucas.
So it looks like the only color missing now for Yoshihiko is red, with the 2 headquarters, forest, and a swamp. Oh, another
Ooh.
Okay, so we saw this song.
Double Yuta, yeah.
Yeah.
This is all right.
Now this is what it needs to look like
Yeah.
for Lucas, which is a little bit of pressure, and now there's some disruption. The disruption here is actually quite good. The Tidebinders and the No More Lives are really nice pieces of reactive disruption. Now, in the case of the Tidebinder, of course, it's a reaction that becomes proactive because it's a creature tied to it. So this is actually the kind of draw that you're kind of looking for from Lucas's deck.
It's going to be difficult as well for Yoshihiko to force through the sweepers because you know you can't name sorcery.
Yep.
You can't name board wipe with Cavern of Souls, as nice as that would be.
So this and this is where the game kind of gets fun, because if you're Ikawa, how do you want to sequence the spells? You got an Archangel, you've got Sunfall, you know, you have Long Goodbye plus maybe Cycle Herd Migration, and my question got answered real fast.
Wow. Yeah. So Sunfall, but this is going to get countered very, very quickly. And I think Yoshihiko kind of expected that. You saw he was moving it towards the bin before he even saw the card in Lucas's hand, which meant that he was anticipating a counterspell. So was that bait then that he can now try to resolve the... I guess he's got Cavern of Souls, so he could have forced the Archangel of Wrath through.
Yeah, but this is now the Archangel. You have to think about, okay, so I have Cavern, but I know my opponent plays Tidebinder.
Yeah.
Right, so...
Oh, no, he's going to jam it. Wow. Well.
The one that will resolve first.
So at one.
Yeah, so one's going to happen because it's two separate triggers.
Right.
Yeah. Because the double kicks.
It puts 2 triggers on the stack, so you can only target 1.
Correct.
Right. But this also robs the Archangel of Flying and Lifelink.
Yeah, so it's just kind of generic.
It's just a 3/4. But critically, that means it can't block Yuta.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So things looking a lot better here for Lucas.
This is a much better game here for Lucas. It's not perfect, but you know, you're in a situation here where the game at least does feel a little bit. It feels much more winnable than the last game that was played.
Yeah. Yeah. With only 2 mana available, this is an opportunity here for Yoshihiko. And also no blue mana?
No blue is the key.
No blue is the key thing here. So Yoshihiko knows that he's cleared for landing to resolve what he wants to resolve. He hasn't played a land this turn.
Cards, 5.
He's got Herd Migration. That's good for 4 tokens, right? No mountain.
Yeah, no mountain. Is 4/3/3s ideal in a spot like this when flyers are kind of the problem?
Yeah. Okay.
You might be more interested just in the life game of the Herd Migration. That might be an extra turn.
All right, Cavern of Souls and Phyrexian this time. Long Goodbye on the Rafine. Obviously, Long Goodbye getting around the ward cost because it can't be countered. All right, gets in and chips. So Lucas under a little bit of pressure as well, down to 13. But I'd say he's still in a decently firm position.
No More Lies might be a really good draw. You have got to take the 1. Yeah, that's the huge tip-off. Now, that doesn't mean that Ikawa can do anything about that, but by using that Caves of Koios instead of the Rafine's Tower, it's like, oh, I wonder what you have.
Yes, yeah, you're signposting that you want to keep up the blue here. All right, cycling away the Tri-Land. Rafine will resolve. Okay, and in comes the Fairy Mastermind once again. Connive, thanks to Rafine. And Yuta's going to grow as the Tidebinder hits the bin. Go for the throat, No More Lies. This is looking better and better for Lucas.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, Herd Migration, you said before, he may be interested in just gaining a life, and he's done exactly that. Back up to 6 now. But Yoshihiko may be on the ropes a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very important draw step. There's a redraw, of course, because you can cycle Zatoria's Proving Ground. But right now, we see the hand just like everybody else does at home. Cavern of Souls and a Triome. That's it.
All right, well, as the Japanese superstar, I'll be hoping he finds a big card on the top of the library here. I think it was an Up the Beanstalk.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Over a decade of identifying Magic cards with split-second glimpses of partial artwork tells me that that was an Up the Beanstalk, and I was absolutely right. Look at him go. That's why I get paid the big bucks.
I know it.
Yeah.
Put that on the resume.
That's it. That is a transferable life skill.
That's right. Most people don't know what that means.
No, but I'll be able to put it there. I'm sure that's transferable to some industry or another. Identification of key resources in a split-second time frame.
Identify a winner of this game.
All right. I was too busy thinking about my future CV for when my Magic career collapses, which it seems like is going to happen a bit sooner than I imagine, considering I missed a key moment in that game, Cedric Phillips.
Lucas is your winner. That's why we're still here.
That's why we're still going.
I got you, partner.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I'm just going to go and log into LinkedIn here and get stuck into that because we're off to the races now with game number 3. And much more convincing performance there from Lucas. A good amount of pressure plus disruption.
That's exactly what it looks like. That particular game, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close. Get the game started with a 2-drop. It can be a flash creature, whatever, right? But, in this instance, in the last instance, it was Fairy Mastermind. It's going to be that again. And then if you can get a counterspell or 2, and just kind of make the domain player, they have to tap out every turn. The thing they do is not effective.
Yeah.
Because they do have a lot of air in their deck. This is a deck that does have 26 lands. Yes, some of them do cycle, of course, but drawing up the beanstalk at the wrong time, okay, whatever. It's a cantrip, but it's not the answer to the problem, right? So there can be plenty of air, and it is very important here for Lucas, especially on the draw, to have a 2-drop and just kind of get things started here.
But just other stuff like having cheap removal, I should say cheap counterspells for sweepers.
That's huge.
Like, if you can play a creature and then defend that creature from and the other creature played from a sweeper, you got 5 mana, you play a 3-drop, you got a 2-drop counterspell.
Yep.
Like, that's big.
That's enormous.
And we saw that happen when the Sunfall was countered. We saw the role that Tishana's Tidebinder played. We talk about pressure plus disruption. Tishana's Tidebinder is exactly that.
Yep.
The Tishana's Tidebinders didn't get in for a huge amount of damage past the 4/4s. Obviously, that's fine. But the point is that they come down as relevant bodies, stop what your opponent's trying to do, and keep you ahead. Even if it's not ahead by much, at least you're still ahead.
You don't have to be ahead by much. You just got to win the game before they do.
Yeah.
Before they're able to draw another Haymaker, before they're able to resolve an Atraxa via Cavernous Souls or anything like that. That's the key. So this is kind of the step 1 of getting the puzzle in place.
I like Lucas's hand a lot less this time around.
This hand's worse.
It's way worse. There's no more lies. There's no go for the throat. There's no way to effectively answer some of the stuff that that Yoshihiko's going to do. And he'll take this.
You do that all day.
You look at it as a 2 for 2. It's not.
Yep.
Because the Topiary Stomper got you a land, which is important, right?
Just reset it.
Yeah. You take that every day.
Because now that there's no pressure, that means that when Lucas does draw something like No More Lies, which was the draw step, you don't really care. It's like, yeah, okay, you counter my spell, whatever, but like, you're not countering my spell while hitting me for 4 points of damage. And you can kind of see Lucas's facial reaction there in the top left corner. It was just like, ugh, like, Now I drew another reactive piece, which is like a go for the throat.
Yeah, and we're seeing now Tishana's Tidebinder flashed in to counter the draw.
Yep.
From the proving ground, which is, I mean, it's nice sniping that, but that is not that's not the ceiling for that card.
Nope. Yeah. Not even close. Not even close.
All right, in it comes. 18. And again, the best way that I know this is really, really simplistic. This is the sort of stuff that when people are learning to play Magic, like who's winning, like, who's on the higher life total. But that honestly is kind of what is happening here, in the sense that last game, at this point, Yoshihiko was down to like 7.
Yeah.
And now he's on 18, 15. He's okay.
Now, there is something I do want to point out here as we make our way through this game, which is blue mana is missing for Ikawa.
Oh, true.
Now, it's not the end of the world, but like Chrome, Host, Seed Shark can't be cast. Atraxa currently can't be cast. Now, if Cavern comes rolling off the top, things change. But the missing of blue mana may have mattered.
All right. Well, we're gonna fix that problem right here.
Yep.
I imagine. Go and get an island with the Topiary Stomper.
There it is.
All right. So it's going to unlock a lot of these key cards here for Yoshihiko.
It also makes binding a little cheaper now, so it's a lot more reasonable.
The full discount, right?
Yep.
Yep, just 1 mana. Okay, and Topiary Stomper bites the dust. Gets pruned down. And this Tishana's Tidebinder is getting some real mileage on it.
But do remember, this is a matchup in which, if you're on Ikawa side of things, you're playing against Esper, you don't have to worry about getting burned out.
Yeah,
right? So there's no lightning bolts or any of that other nonsense happening. So you can, 15, 12, 9, 6.
You can go to 1.
You kind of go 1, yeah, you kind of can. And just be like, okay, that's fine. I don't really worry about that. This is not fun.
Oh, boy, this is a real stinking situation for Lucas here, because the Chrome Host Seed Shark is really rewarding Yoshihiko for this. And we see this, right? Leyline binding is so effective when it comes to cards like Up the Beanstalk, Chrome Host, Seed Shark, whatever else. And another one as well. It gives you another incubation token too. Oh boy. All right. Well, that Chrome Host Seed Shark paid for itself.
Did a real good job.
Yep.
Did a real good job.
Two 6/6 incubation tokens just ready to go, Denick. And we're going to see one of these flipped here and now. A 6/6 dominating the battlefield. I want to give credit to Lucas here.
He made it competitive.
He's shown us that he's to fight this to the last to the very last card. But Yoshihiko has played really, really well, sideboarded really well. I've really enjoyed this game and this match because it's shown us what this matchup looks like and how it can be won and lost.
This Domain deck is polarizing insofar as everyone knows it exists. It has done well at the highest levels in Standard, but a lot of people don't like it because there are a lot of games where it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Now, you can watch a game like this and say it's incredibly powerful, and you're not wrong. But if an Esper player wanted to gear their deck towards beating this, they could.
Yeah.
If someone said, okay, I'm going to play Teamer Aftermath, you can never beat me. That's true. So the main deck doesn't have a lot of wiggle room, but when it looks good, it looks really darn good.
Yeah. Because it's going uninterrupted. It's doing its thing. But it's a good point you make. Esper can beat anything if it's tuned. You'll lose points against the rest of the field.
Absolutely.
But if you want to overload your deck with, with the cards that are going to go after a deck like Domain, you can for sure do it in Esper.
And it's why Domain isn't a high percentage of the metagame this weekend and why Esper is, because Esper gives you a lot of agency on how you want to build your deck and how you want to play. Domain, it's pretty straightforward. A lot of your stuff is just kind of set as far as card slots are concerned. You're playing, a bunch of tri-lands, you're playing some basics, you're playing some Leylines bindings. Like, your deck is kind of already built. There might be 5, 6, 7 flex slots, but you kind of know what it is. And in turn, all your opponents know what you do too. And it's just a decision of if they want to really try to beat you or not. And in this instance, Lucas's build of this deck is not geared towards beating Domain.
And this has ended up as another disaster here for poor old Lucas, who flashed in the Wandering Emperor to save his Denick, but then another Leyline Binding came down and took out not just the Denick, but also the Wandering Emperor, and that will be that here. Yoshihiko Ikawa is the undefeated player at the end of day number 1 here at Pro Tour Thunder Junction. It's been a pleasure to watch him play his trade in this last game and this last match, and a well-deserved #1 spot for him as we head into day 2 tomorrow.
And let me tell you, at the beginning of this match, I know that Maria mentioned this, very happy was Ikawa coming into this matchup knowing what he was going to be playing against and knew that, okay, this is a pretty favorable matchup, got to take advantage of that, of course, and was able to do so. Again, as far as just deck list to deck list, the matchup is very favorable for Domain. We saw that play out. Doesn't mean Lucas couldn't win, because we saw what winning does look like in game number 2. But you kind of run that set a couple of times. I think it's going to be Ikawa who wins more often than not.
Well, it was great to watch, and the good news is the party don't stop, my friends. We've got more Magic to show you. A quick break to get things set up, and then we'll be back from Seattle with more Standard to round out coverage of day number 1. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here live from Pro Tour Thunder Junction after this. Coverage of Pro Tour Thunder Junction continues. You're in the safe and capable hands of Cedric Phillip and the slightly less capable hands of me, Riley Knight. It's my great pleasure to be joining you here in the booth as we get underway, Cedric, with our next feature match. And we've got some pretty big names
we do.
To get across as we head back down there now. We're going to jump into game number 2 here between Ben Stark and Javier Dominguez. Javier Dominguez, a former world champion, and Ben Stark, a member of the Magic the Gathering Hall of Fame, playing a deck that I have to say I got a real thing for. Azorius Control, I play it whenever I can. Been enjoying getting across it in this format, particularly, Cedric, with the addition of one of the best 3-mana counter spells that they've printed in a long time, 3 steps ahead. Love that card.
Very, very powerful card. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to see it here. However, Esper Midrange, as we know, most play deck in the tournament, and if you want to speak of powerful 3-mana cards, Rafine may show its lovely head here in just a moment.
Well, we'll find out. I'm going to play this game sped up just a little bit because we want to get as much Magic into the stream as we can today. So we're going to try to show you, well, not going to try to, we are definitely going to show you the entirety of the rest of this match, and then maybe some more if we can cram it in. We'll see how we go.
So to be clear, we're sped up, and Javier already plays really fast. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep our eyes on the prize here. All right. We have, to open things up, our Virtue of Loyalty here. Bring in a Knight token. And there is Rafine, the card you mentioned before. But no more lies.
Yep. Very, very important for Ben to have an answer to that card. Rafine is incredibly, incredibly powerful, of course, and keeping that off of the battlefield so that there's no conniving taking place or that Knight token getting any larger, and just kind of slowing Javier down in general is a very good idea.
So one thing to watch here, if you're newer to this game and you're still getting your head around some of the ways that these decks function, when it comes to a control deck, the control deck essentially wants to play a land every single turn of the game. Some more aggressive low-to-the-ground decks want to play 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 lands, but Ben Stark, a measure of his success will be how many lands is he able to play before he runs out. And if he just keeps playing lands, it's going to be very good for him because it means he can leverage his powerful spells more efficiently, more effectively. But in this case, Disdainful Stroke is going to take care of the Wandering Emperor. So Ben is sort of back to the drawing board here.
Yeah, and you're already speaking of Ben needing to hit land drops. It looks like he's going to miss his land drop here, and Javier is going to play another copy of Ardenvale, Fealty. So this is actually, well, here's what this signals. What the signals is that Ben has all spells in hand, sure.
Yeah.
We know that. That's pretty obvious. But how does Ben want to navigate things? Because generally blue-white deck is looking to play multiple spells in one turn if possible, but you can only do that once you get to like 6, 7 mana. And he's stuck on 4 right now, so he might be in 1 spell per turn territory.
Yeah. And this is not good, the fact that this is an instant at end of turn, because if you use a counter spell against this, Javier will just untap and play a bigger threat. So we're going to see Memory Deluge here. And this sort of highlights the fact that Ben isn't happy with his hand. He wants to find lands. Yep. But it also gives Javier free reign to play whatever he wants once he untaps.
Yeah, shields are down. We're not looking at a format here with anything resembling free spells. No. So Javier's turn could be a myriad of things. It could be playing Planeswalker. It could just be playing Virtue after playing a 5th land. I mean, the easy part of the turn is attacking. What comes after that is going to be mighty interesting. And Riley, there's land number 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Virtue is just slammed into play here because this is such a high... what it means is Javier doesn't have to heavily commit to the board. Yep. Because every creature he plays, every creature he attacks with becomes a really legitimate threat. And Ben has found the land. He did find the land, obviously, off the... he had a good chance of doing so off the Memory Deluge, but now he's playing from behind.
And it's exactly what you said, which is Javier... The pressure is on the battlefield. I'm not going to do anything else. You got to answer this.
Javier doesn't have to play another spell.
Nope.
It's actually up to Ben now to answer this because these Knights will hit for 6, and then next turn they'll hit for 8, and that'll be the game.
That'll be it entirely. So, okay, that's step 1.
Okay, Tishana's Tidebinder just as a 3/2 to trade with one of the Knights. That is not what you want to use that card for. It's a little clumsy here, unfortunately. But it does leave 2 mana open, and Javier will have to respect that.
It is worth noting that Javier does have a copy of No More Lies in hand and elected not to cast it there.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes sense.
It just doesn't... Yeah, I think it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Just don't really care very much.
All right. And here's a Get Lost. Now, this maybe is a better target for it, but even then, I'd just kind of be... I don't know. Maybe just flashing the Wandering Emperor and start using that.
There's a potential for that. You play Wandering Emperor here, that means that you don't have access to No More Lies. And maybe something worse happens after that. Yeah. So this is kind of a flashpoint in this game for Javier. First real tough decision.
Yeah. But I like the look of his hand. He's got another Virtue of Fealty, which means that he's got another Ardenvale. Virtue of Loyalty, which means he's got the Ardenvale Fealty. So worst case scenario here, if he does nothing else, he can flash in a 2/2. Okay, that's what we're going to see. And you'll notice Ben is in the sort of draw-go mode now.
He wants to be.
Yep.
Well, Javier's going to make it tough.
Not all control decks play out this way. Some control decks do like to play at sorcery speed. Ben's list is a little more instant speed focused. 22 cards in this deck can be played at instant speed. 22 cards are instant. 26 cards can be played at instant speed once you factor in the Wandering Emperor.
Sure.
The only sorcery speed cards are sweepers. All right, in comes the knight.
Good attack.
And we'll see
March
of Otherworldly Light.
Yep.
That's a nice way to get rid of a token there. 1 mana. And then a Wandering Emperor here for Stark. Okay, Knight token picks up a counter. Ben's making this game.
No, we got a game now that
Yeah.
Ben's no longer bottlenecked on mana, because again, if he's bottlenecked on mana, which that turn cycle was Wandering Emperor into main phase Memory Deluge, not play a land yet, of course,
Yeah.
that it meant that his entire hand was spells, so you have to presume that his hand is pretty good, and he's drawn lands for a couple turns in a row here. So Javier is in a little bit of trouble, because now Javier needs to start resolving things. But more important, Javier needs to start drawing spells himself.
Yeah, and this is looking better and better for Ben, as we see now the Wandering Emperor get exiled thanks to the No More Lies. And what I was saying before, Cedric, is sort of now proving true. The lands that Ben wants to play every turn mean that he can play the No More Lies and then keep up 5 mana.
Yep.
That's enough to cast another 2 spells.
That's right.
So Javier is in a more and more difficult position the longer this game goes on, although his hand is not too bad. He's got another Wandering Emperor, which is a great threat against control. And I didn't see that the card, it's a blue card. It might be a Tishana's Tideminder. I don't know if you got a good look at it.
I did not. Kind of focusing on what Javier may do this turn. It looks like the trigger's going to go on. My trigger might go on the stack. It looks like it's Fairy Mastermind.
Oh, it's Fairy Mastermind.
Okay, so trigger on the stack, cast Fairy Mastermind, and then, assuming it resolves, then resolve the trigger from Virtue of Loyalty and put a counter on the Mastermind. So that makes some sense.
Yep.
Well.
But it's going to get lost immediately. Ben Stark doing this in Javier's end step. 2 map tokens, which can't be used because they can only be activated at sorcery speed. And then we're back to Ben.
Yeah.
It's a great game. It's a really, really good game. We're seeing Ben. He's a very good player, very careful and calculated player. He's got a mind like a machine, and he's putting it to good use here.
Yeah, this is starting to become a bit of an uphill climb here for Javier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the old. I think that's Dust, the old Dusty boy.
Dust Animus out of the sideboard here, yep. So we're getting dusty.
I've had that one in the limited format. Pretty good card. Pretty good card.
Kind of like it here as well, hey?
Yeah.
Got nothing to do on turn 2, just plot it away and then just let it sit there for 6 turns.
Yep.
Yeah. I do like stuff like that coming out of the sideboard. I remember my old favorite back in the old days of Theros was Brimaz, King of Ereskos.
Yeah, and just sideboarding in creatures is pretty effective from Azorius strategies.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than one would expect.
Bringing Geist to St. Traft.
Yeah,
Oh, baby.
I lost that card a lot, so I don't want to talk
baby.
about. I don't want to talk about.
You don't talk about that? We can
No.
move on. We can move on. It's all right.
Can't kill it.
You can't kill it. Yeah. I remember playing with that card. I was teaching a new player how to play. And they cast, like, I don't know, Doomblade or something, try to kill it. I was like, no, it's got hexproof. And they picked up the Doomblade, looked at it and said, this isn't a hex.
Yeah, okay, well, got bad news for you.
Sorry, mate. It does have instant proof. All right.
Gang block, yeah.
Ben's in a good position here.
Potentially. Depends on what Ben has left in hand, if anything. So, because if this
Oh,
is
is he?
I don't know if empty-handed or not. We don't have a great view.
Well, that gesture he just made with his hands
Sure.
seemed to say they didn't have anything.
Okay, so this is a winning combat here for Javier, thanks to the Wandering Emperor.
Okay, and that knight's getting huge.
Yes, it is.
It's like my dad when I was a kid. That's a big night. Okay, Ben, I think, is just on the one card.
I think it's just one card, and it's not the best of positions for Ben right now. Okay. It's not terrible. I will say that. But Ben needs a really good draw step, and I don't know what best draw step looks like in this situation, because this knight is huge, and most importantly about this knight is that it continues to have vigilance, which is really good against the Wandering Emperor.
And another issue here for Ben is if he can't find his 7th land, he can't flash back that memory deluge.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be a turning point in this game. His 7th land. We're going to wake up our own Restless Anchorage, says Javier.
Yeah, Javier's thinking about it.
Yeah, all right. Wakey, wakey. The early bird gets the worm. And this knight, 8-8.
I'm curious where the attacks are going to go here. How much do you care about Wandering Emperor? Okay, it looks like both are going to go to Wandering Emperor. Okay. Now don't forget, because of the virtue...
The bird gets a counter, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that counter stays on it even when it stops being a creature.
Uh-huh.
So concealed courtyard to hand.
But that's the nice part about this.
Plays it keeps putting the Restless Anchorage back in the lands and then remembering. No, I don't want to forget the counter.
Yeah, the nice part about that is on taps, and that might give Javier some additional mana. That might be useful. That's kind of a neat little interaction because of the virtue.
Yep, untaps the land so it can be untaps a creature so it can be then tapped as a land. What a card, Restless Anchorage, man. It's got to be one of my favorite cards that's been recently printed. I'm a huge fan of Celestial Colonnade, and this one only costs 3. Oh, my goodness.
I like creature lands. I always have.
Yeah.
And this is... I mean, there's nothing overpowered about this card. It's just a good card.
No, it's just really
right. It's just a good card.
Yeah. It's honestly, if you'd showed me the activation cost... Sorry, if you showed me the activation ability without the cost, I would have guessed it would cost 4.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's a little aggressively costed at 3, which I'm a huge fan of. Obviously, like I'll take that. We take those.
Dust Animus has been pretty good for Ben this game. That lifelink counter is pretty important.
Yeah, look at his life totals an 18.
Yeah.
He's back up. He's back up. All right, another map token. The knight getting in now is a 9/9. This virtue has really done some work. It's added so much power to the battlefield.
Yeah, this is where I get a little fearful for Ben right now, and this is why I have my concerns about blue-white in this format. Is when a game looks like this, how do you break out of this? How do you get back ahead in a spot like this? Because I think Javier is in a pretty favorable position right now. And what's the card to draw? Now, we mentioned the ability to flashback a Memory Deluge potentially, right? But you know, what's the comeback card to get you out of what looks to be a pretty sticky situation that's only getting worse over time?
Yeah, and the problem is here as well, like traditionally, I'm getting beaten down by creatures, I'll just play a sweeper. A sweeper gets rid of one threat. And the because of the map tokens and the virtue, that Restless Anchorage is attacking a for 5.
Correct. So it's just going to keep on coming and coming and coming and coming. And that doesn't even take into account any good card that Javier draws.
All right, Long Goodbye.
Like that one.
Yeah, Long Goodbye is a nice one here in that it gets rid of a 2-drop that isn't attacking like a 2-drop should. And that was that might have been Ben's lifeline here, his lifelink lifeline. Because now he's taking 15 next turn.
And because Javier, well, there's a Memory Deluge, actually a hard cast, but because Javier is continuing to put on so much pressure, the ability to take a turn off to flashback Memory Deluge, Javier's just really going to not let that ever happen.
It's becoming a more and more difficult thing. When I first raised that, I was like, well, Ben can definitely afford. He's got time for that, right? And that's going to be a game changer. But right now, no, I don't think he does. And this is not going to end well here for Ben unless that Memory Deluge really found him some good stuff.
Oh, I'd say Field of Ruin.
Field of Ruin. Oh, Field of Ruin is a nice clean answer to the Anchorage. Yeah, of course, unless there's a Dushana's Tidebinder. Very mastermind. So you're taking 12. You're taking 12.
And Javier just continues to be unrelenting here, trying to figure out the best way to attack. Yes, but the draw step for the turn, I believe, was a copy of Wedding Announcement.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah.
Not a card you want to play against right now. If you're
Well, it was
Ben.
kept on top from the Explore on the
Right,
map.
yeah,
So,
right,
So Javier was like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love this.
I mean, it's not land.
Yeah. But it'll just keep producing more threats. Those threats become more potent because of the virtue of loyalty. We have the forced activation of Field of Ruin. Both players going to get a basic here. Yeah, Ben's going to have to pull something special out. There's been some good back and forth in this game. It's been a fun game to watch. But now, Ben, on 3.
I wonder if Javier's supposed to play the wedding announcement this turn. Assuming Ben has no cards in hand.
Yeah.
Like if Ben has a card in hand, I probably don't play it because I don't want to run it in No More Lies.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only thing that really enters the equation. And by not playing it, you can still activate Fairy Mastermind, draw a card, that sort of thing. So you're still okay. Now that's going to change some things.
That's not bad.
Yep, that is, when I was mentioning what's the best card to draw, that just may have been it.
Because that doesn't only deal with the creatures, it also gets rid of the virtue.
Yep.
Because the virtue plus the wedding announcement would have been a lethal combination.
Yep.
But now this gets Ben a little bit of time because this wedding announcement will come down. It's not going to generate the deadly force that it would have, because that would have been a 2/2.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, but we're seeing Get Lost as well. All right, Get Lost before the wedding announcement can trigger.
Now Javier staring at it. Now it's time to take a look. Because Javier has No More Lies in hand, and is it worth countering this, or do you try to snag a memory deluge?
I think so. You need pressure, right? You need to put some pressure on. That No More Lies is only going to get worse and worse and worse. And Tishadna's Tidebinder as well. Okay, all right.
While the shields are down.
Yeah, so it's back to Ben now to deal with the 4 power on the battlefield. That Tishadna's Tidebinder must be answered as it's lethal. It's got a little bit more breathing room around the human token, but not much.
Yeah, I like that play by Javier a lot there because what that basically is saying is I'm playing this right now because I'm concerned about No More Lies.
Yeah.
I could obviously play play it in a turn and then it gets countered.
Yeah.
And then there's why you play your instants only as instants when you can play the sorceries. So I really like the idea of, okay, I'm just going to play this right now while your shields are down. Now, you have to have an answer to this right now, you're dead. And it's also going to change the way that you have to play the game because I'm presenting lethal, which means, again, we're always talking about the ability to flashback memory delusion, how that can kind of turn the corner on the game. Javier's goal is to make that as difficult as possible always.
Yep. Yep.
That's the entire goal.
Ben can't just go, oh, I'll flashback and see what I get, and it'll be fine, because, like, well, no, the priority number 1 has, and that's not to say he doesn't flash it back, it's just that he has to decide what is going to be the best way for him to deal with this 3/2. He's obviously confident that he can get through the next turn with it.
Yeah,
Rafine.
Sure. Slam that down.
Yeah, just casually chuck that one out here. All right, let's see if there's a response. Looks like there's going to be. I think this is going to be a memory deluge from hand.
It might be time to just organize the mana and see how many creature lands.
Oh no, he's got 3 steps ahead.
Oh boy! All right.
3 steps ahead. So I think what Ben's doing is seeing if he's got enough mana to activate the bird, right, the Restless Anchorage, and then cast and copy the 2/3, and he does. He does have enough mana to do this. But he's not going to.
Okay.
He's going to counter, draw instead. Basically Cryptic Command. So counter target spell, draw 2 cards, then discard a card.
Temporary lockdown. Okay.
All right. We'll solve the human problem.
I mean, it's entirely possible Javier just doesn't attack this turn. I don't think the attacks are particularly good. You can just continue to build up your battlefield a little bit. You can play Virtue and just put some counters on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this. I like the patience.
Because the Tidebinder will just trade with the Restless Anchorage, but now it won't. At the end of this turn. Oh no, okay.
Well, here's the thing. You might be cool with the trade,
right?
Because getting this trade out of the way, maybe Ben having 1 less mana is positive. You know.
If he's going to attack, why play the Virtue first?
Maybe a slight missequence.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And now, boy, that's brutal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's a really nice sequence. Wow, that's really nice sequence for Ben there. So I'll explain what happened. He activated the 2/3, blocked the 1/1, and then before damage used the mana from the untapped 2/3 to cast the Get Lost. And even though it's tapped, it still deals combat damage. The 1/1 dies, the 3/2 dies, the map tokens are there. But yeah, Dominguez punished for playing the Virtue.
And punished in multiple ways. So here's the first one's obvious, which is now the battlefield's clear and Ben is able to actually flash back Memory Deluge, which we've been talking about for a couple of turns. That's one. Two, the wedding announcement, because 2 creatures attacked, means that Javier did not make a token. He drew a card. And drawing a card is fine here, but you'd rather continue to pressure your opponent. And now there's no pressure on the battlefield, which Ben, what this means is Ben is for sure going to get another turn. Right? And so that is absolutely huge.
And we've sort of been playing up this one turn that Ben took there, and it was kind of innocuous and almost happened off screen, right? But flashing back that Memory Deluge, I said before, the way I described it, I said, this is going to be a turning point in the game.
Absolutely.
Right? This is going to be a hinge upon which the game turns. Ben got the opportunity to do that. He got himself enough breathing room that he could cast a 7-mana instant, right? And now, this might be enough to turn the game around. He's got another Memory Deluge here. Wedding Announcement's going to flip. The problem is there's no creatures. Oh, there's a 1/1.
Yeah, you get the final one here, and then the virtue tokens.
It's a 4/4.
Yeah,
it's a 4/4. All right. So he does need to answer that. He does need to answer that.
Yeah, but Ben's gotten to see so many cards over the past turn cycle that I would be shocked if he's not starting to be loaded up with some answers here.
Field of Ruin's a nice one as well. The other card that Ben's playing, I don't know, this is obviously post-board. I don't know if he's still got them in there, but he's got Union of the Third Path. Right, which is instant, draw a card, then gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand. If he's got 4 cards in hand, all of a sudden he casts that. Like, that changes the equation a little bit.
It does. It does. Yeah, Javier's in some trouble right now. He was doing a really, really nice job of keeping Ben off balance. When it comes to the Memory Deluge conversation.
But that sequence with the 2/3 being activated, blocking, and then providing the mana for the Get Lost
is huge.
That was what changed the game. That was a game-changing play here for Ben, and it may have been a game-winning play, but we'll find that out. Right, map token. All right, Denick on top. Doesn't like the look of that.
It's a little bit of a freebie to put in the graveyard because it disturbed too, so it's kind of win-win.
Right. Maybe another map activation here. So Ottawara in hand here for Javier, I think.
Yeah, key card in this sequence.
Yeah.
It can get a little tricksky.
And we've got Tidebinder as well. And Wandering Emperor now for Ben as well. Okay.
That's less tricky. That's a little bit more straightforward.
Yeah.
Tidebinder.
Tidebinder the Wandering Emperor.
Heck yeah, okay.
But does Ben have an answer for that?
Nope.
Igenjo.
I was counting to see if Javier could Ottawara his Tidebinder back.
Oh, and then play it again?
And then play it again. Yep.
That'd be hot. Be hot, 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 hot. But it's not happening. Igenjo here. To deal 4.
Yep. Oh.
No, it only had 2 counters on it.
Yeah, so...
Oh, no, it didn't because of the map token.
Right!
Because of the map token, of course, it was a 5/5. It went into combat as a 5/5, even though it started the turn as a 4/4.
And they weren't sure themselves either about that, because Javier thought it was going to die too.
Of course, he was like, yeah, right. And then the judge points out, no, because of the +1/+1 counter on it that was put on it this turn.
Correct.
I think in both their heads, they were still thinking, right, that's a 4/4, right?
Yep.
And then new information came along, and wow.
So, 1/1 token, 2 counters from both virtues, map counter, and then wedding announcement, transformation, +1/+1, 5/5.
5/5.
Igenjo, 4 damage. Quick math, 1 short.
Yeah.
Still got it, never lost it.
Yeah.
Good back and forth. The thing I dislike about blue-white control in this particular format, all the cards in the deck are good. The ability to slam the door shut on a game it has some real difficulty doing that. And we just watched that. So you and I are talking about Memory Deluge. You got to flash it back to start pulling ahead a little bit. And that happened. And then another Memory Deluge was cast. And then the Spree card.
3 steps ahead.
Thank you. 3 steps ahead. That was like Cryptic Command that game too, right? So you're seeing like, oh man, these are really good exchanges for Ben. Still couldn't get across the finish line. So
because the deck is missing Sphinx's Revelation.
It just needs something like a Sphinx's Rev or an Elspeth Sun's Champion or something to just say, hey, cool, game's over.
Yeah, we're done.
And it has some difficulty doing that, unfortunately. And Javier was able to just keep going and going and going and finally cross the finish line.
And we can hear from Javier right now. He's standing by with Ailey. So let's go down to our former world champ who just took out Ben Stark.
Javier Dominguez just picking up a victory against Ben Stark. That was one heck of a long game.
Yeah, it was a very long game. Like so many decisions, so many cards involved. Yeah, those are tiring. They're fun though.
Very fun indeed, I'm sure. That went to time. 2-0 though to continue your winning streak here. Must be feeling pretty good after day one.
Yeah, actually, I mean, the games have been so long that I actually realized I went 5-0 and constructed. I was like, you know, the deck is being good for me, but yeah, I mean, it's just like standard games. They are sometimes grinding, sometimes like very hard, so many cards, so many decisions. So yeah, it's been a fun day.
Is this something that you and Handshake were prepared for, knowing that Esper was probably going to be one of the biggest archetypes in the metagame?
Yeah, we thought Esper would be the most played deck. We're not sure about like Convoke being like close second or just what happened now. So I guess we expected a little bit less of a little bit more of Convoke, but more or less we expected this metagame. Yeah.
All right, cool. I hope you dodge all your bad matchups tomorrow, Javier. Best of luck.
That's my plan. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great to see Javier doing well. Love to see the...
First time.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, finally putting up some results at last, Javier. That's just about it from us in the booth today, Cedric. But before we wrap things up and send it on over the news desk, I'm interested to get your thoughts generally on, I guess, the day as a whole, but more specifically Standard.
Yeah.
Because I think there are some interesting learnings we can take away from today and some expectations that I think have been a little subverted by what we've seen at the Pro Tour.
So coming in, if you take a look at the numbers that Frank broke down and knowing that Esper was the most played deck, it's kind of like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's the case here. I think Esper's a good deck. I don't think it's overwhelmingly good. I think it's just a good deck. We've seen the Team Aftermath decks. It's a couple different ways you can go about building those style of decks. We've seen Boros Convoke a little bit. People try some other different aggro strategies. We've seen some weird Legends decks with Truth Be Told. I think there's a lot of exploration still left to be done there with like your Slowgurks of the world and just all the Legends that you can play that we saw with Brian Kibler and some other players here this weekend. So I say all that to say that I think the Standard format's actually like pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty wide open. I think that because Standard is the biggest that it's ever been with over 3,000 cards, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface here a little bit. Pro Tours generally nowadays, they kind of set the standard for what things look like in a format.
Yeah.
And then for the next couple of weeks, month, or whatever, it's like, okay, this is the only decks to play. I don't think that's the case coming out of this tournament. I know we haven't crowned a champion yet or anything like that. We still got 2 days to go, but
I think there's a lot more openness to the Standard format, and I think that the numbers are a little misleading as well. I know that there's always a great hue and cry whenever the metagame breakdown goes up, and whatever is on the top thing, everyone goes, oh, the format's terrible because this deck is unbeatable and ban, whatever. But I think that number's misleading because there is a percentage of players, and I'm not knocking these players, that come to the Pro Tour being like, I don't have time to prepare. I've got a full-time job. I've got a family, whatever, right?
Yep.
I just want to play a deck that I know is going to function, that's like 55 against the field, right? Or even 52 against the field, that I'm not going to have super bad matchups. I'm just going to go and play solid Magic because I don't have the hours and hours, right?
Yep.
So you've got Team Handshake, you've got the best players in the world sitting there working out to the nth degree what the best deck is. They settled on Esper. And then so people go, right, okay, well, they've done, I'm not going to check. I'm just going to play this deck. And that sort of inflates its popularity to the point that people think it's unbeatable.
I agree.
So I think that it's important to look a little bit beyond that. Look at some of the numbers that other decks are putting up. Look at the results that they're having. Frank Carsten will put out his metagame analysis that has a lot of numerical crunchiness to it, so you can get into it. But
for sure,
I think you're right in saying that this format has a lot more for us to learn about and explore and find out exactly what is good and what's going to drive the format forward.
There's too many cards that are legal for it to be, in my opinion, this like to just say this is it.
Like as clear cut.
Yeah, that's just it's Esper, and you can do whatever else you want. But like, if you're not casting Rafine, you're a big dum dum. I don't think that's even close to true.
Well, that's going to do it from us here in the booth. It's been our pleasure to bring you matches today. And to close out day number 1 of Pro Tour Thunder Junction, we're going to kick it over to
Moo.
I was waiting for that one. Kick it over to the news desk here on behalf of Cedric. I was going to say, Cedric, it's been a pleasure to work with you, but we can, as my mum said, look, my mum always told me, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. So with that, Cedric, time to go back to the news desk.